Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men who I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. Yahweh is the true name of the God of Israel. Yahushai is what the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is Yahushai. And pretty much I haven't done one of these videos since getting this new channel. And when I used to do these videos in the past, it used to get my channel flagged a lot. So if you notice, I'm pretty much sticking to, going into like chapters and just being direct with what I bring out, because, it's annoying to constantly keep making YouTube channels, but, the gospel has to be spread nonetheless. But in this lesson, I'm going to be going over the 2030 agenda, because, when you hear us talk about the mark of the beast, which is and only is the RFID chip implant, it's a physical mark that's going to be tied to this new world order, this centralized banking system. So what these Edomites, which is the so-called white man in the sea line, want to do is they want to cause a global economic collapse in order to usher in a new system. And that's what you're currently seeing. Even in your day-to-day life, you're noticing that a lot of places in the Americas, mainly, the United States of America, Europe, different parts of the world, China at the helm, right? You notice that these places, they're not really accepting cash like that. Cash is really for like, weaker countries, really. Countries that they're not thriving as much as America. They're not thriving as much as, China, Europe, stuff like that. Like if you go to like Central, South America, they big on cash there, all right? You go to places like certain parts of Asia, like Thailand or, Cambodia, just give you examples, they big on cash there. But when you actually take it to airline over there, the airlines, they don't even accept cash on the planes, all right? Everything has to be done digitally. And that's how they're social engineering the minds of the people to accept this new way of paying for things without physical cash. So this lesson, I'm going to show you how this new world order agenda and the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip implant, how that's end time prophecy. All right. So getting into the 2030 agenda, because that's exactly what it is. It's a agenda. It's a plan by the central bankers, which are the Rothschilds. All right. A group of Zionist Edomites that control all nations' money supply through the centralized banking system. So it's a very easy thing for them to do, to say, okay, well, all countries, nations, islands, they're already operating under our centralized system. Now we're going to change globally, worldwide, through a major event, how people buy and sell. Since they dictate how people already buy and sell, it's an easy thing for them to ban and get rid of cash, precious metals, all right, and come up with a new digital currency in the form of a central bank digital currency that's coming directly from the central bank and not the commercial banks that you're used to, such as the Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo's, TD banks, just giving you examples, all right, or whatever country you're in, the banks that you're used to. Sooner or later, all these commercial banks, they're going to be done away with, and everybody's going to have a digital wallet, which the mark of the beast is going to be tied to that digital wallet and digital currency, giving the central bankers full control over your life and your assets. All right? So getting into this 2030 agenda. It's a little blurry, but I'm going to read it. 2030 agenda, right? Formerly known as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is a United Nations-backed plan adopted in 2015. Now, if you do your research concerning the United Nations, really that's something that the Rothschilds created, because you got to understand something. These Edomites, They control absolutely everything in any category you could think of, from entertainment to the school system to the centralized banking system, how people buy and sell, the media stations, entertainment, anything you can think of. At the helm of that, there's going to be a Zionist Jewish Edomite that's going to control that sector. So when we say that the Edomites are on rulership, they are, because they control absolutely everything, even the internet. All right? So it says, it outlines 17 sustainable development goals, right? And then it says, in parentheses, it says SDGs, aimed at tackling global challenges like poverty, hunger, inequality, and climate change by the year 2030. Now, this don't necessarily mean that everything is going to come to pass by 2030. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is their agenda that they want by 2030. Now, the scriptures say that the days is going to be shortened for the elect's sake. So let's hope, this thing happens sooner or later, so that the destruction of Babylon the Great could take place, so that Yahweh he can deliver us from the destruction. The 1/3 that's mentioned in Zechariah 13 and 9, all right, that's in America. Let's hope that this happens soon, because the Lord, he's not going to allow the ones that are alive and remain to be caught up in that lake of fire. He's going to deliver us by the way of the so-called UFOs. So it says it's a global roadmap for creating a more sustainable and equitable world. All right? So this is their agenda. So without further ado, I'm going to get more into this agenda, but it's time to get into these precepts. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, "Lest Satan." Now when you go into this word Satan, the word there in the Greek is Satanas, which is referring to what? A Satan-like man. Who are the Satan-like men that control the planet Earth through the centralized banking system? The Edomites, as you can see on the screen, pursuing to what? 2 Ezra 6 and 9. Daniel the 2nd chapter. This is the time of the Gentiles. So during the reign of the Edomites, that will be the time during the second beast, which is America, all right, as well as the EU that makes up their whole system, the image of the beast, right? During their reign, they will make mandatory the mark of the beast, according to what? The book of Revelation, all right? So they're the Satan-like individuals. Look at Hollywood. Look at the New World Order agenda. Look at who controls the World Economic Forum, all right? Look at the Zionists. Like I said, every category you can think of, there's an Edomite that controls that sector, giving them as a nation total, complete control over the planet Earth. They're in rulership. They control the nation's money supply. When you control the nation's money supply, you don't care who the hell is the prime minister, king, queen, president. None of that matters, because you're the one that controls everybody's life through buying and selling. So they the Satan-like people. Look at Hollywood. These people literally worship Satan. Look at the Epstein files that's coming out. I've been ignoring that, but it's been coming out. These people are evil. The practices that they do at the Bohemian Grove, Epstein Island, these people are satanic. They're the Satan-like people. They are Satan's physical counterpart on the planet Earth, doing the bidding of Satan. So it says should get an advantage of us. Who's the us? The ones that's predestinated to be a part of the elect of the nation of Israel. For we, through the Holy Spirit, through the gift of faith, through Yahweh's blood and sacrifice, are not ignorant of his devices. When you go into this word devices, the Greek word is naima, and it says what? A mental perception, a thought, an evil purpose, bringing you back to what? The word conspiracy. Because the word conspiracy, when you go on Google, it says what? It says, I should go to it real quick. All right, give me 1 second. Let me go to it real quick. It's been a while since I went into this Word conspiracy. Conspiracy. Right. I want the Google meaning. That's what I want. Everything is AI. All right. It says the word conspiracy. It says is a secret plan or agreement between two or more people to perform an unlawful, harmful, or treacherous act. Right. Yep. Secret unity. So that's pretty much what it's going into, right? Conspiracy, in which they try to say that conspiracy theories are false, but it's playing out in real time. So that's the evil purpose ultimately, all right? The evil purpose is what? Their New World Order agenda. It says that which thinks the mind, thoughts, or purposes. So we're not ignorant to his schemes because through the gift of faith, through the Holy Spirit, we know that his plan is in the Bible, all right? So now, let's read some more about his evil schemes, right? Let's go here. So as you can see right here, it says New World Order Agenda 2030. This will happen. Let's see how it goes, right? So this has been their goals since 2021, really going back to 2015 as I read. So they want to establish a one world government. Who's going to control the one world government? The Edomites. Ain't going to be no other nations. Why? Because the Edomites is the nation that's ruling right now, right? They're the last heathen nation to rule before Yahushua physically comes back and establishes the planet Earth. The Edomites will be in rulership when Yahushua physically returns back by the way of the so-called UFOs. So it says one world cashless currency. This is why the world is transitioning into a digital age, which is a part of what? The fourth industrial revolution. And the end game of the fourth industrial revolution is to merge man with machine, aka transhumanism, but merge man to this database, through what? The mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip implant, right? That's the goal of the fourth industrial revolution. So they want to do away with cash. So now it says one world cashless. So we're not ignorant to his devices. It says negative interest rates and war on cash. It says it also serves to provide a false further justification for abolishing cash. So this is what they're trying to currently do worldwide. It says, and this fits into the Bank of England's surprise and recent discovery that the money supply is created by banks through their action of granting loans. By supporting monetary reformers, the Bank of England may further increase its own power and accelerate the drive to concentrate the banking system. It says, if bank credit creation was abolished and there was only one true bank left, which would be the Bank of England, which we know the Bank of England, it was originally funded or started by the Rothschilds, the Rothschild family. As you can see here, negative interest rates and the war on cash. It will also further the project to increase control over and monitoring of the population with both cash and bank credit alternatives abolished. So this is what they ultimately want. This is why they've been saying, oh, there can be a cyber attack or some form of an EMP attack or something similar in the banking system to crash the system, so that when the system reboots and comes back on, everything is going to be digital, all right? This is why they allow fraud. They allow, people to scam and do all type of shit, because they're going to use that as justification to bring in a new system, all right? Which is going to trap everybody. So it says, population with both cash and bank credit alternatives abolished, all transactions, money creation, and allocation would be implemented by the Bank of England, which is controlled by the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, they control the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is America's central bank when you do the research, all right? They control the IRS. They control every country you can think of. It don't matter who faces on the dollar. It don't matter who you voted for, what language they speak, you know, the skin color, hair texture, genetics, none of that matters. The Rothschilds is how people dictate. The Rothschilds is how people buy and sell. You use their system. You operate under their centralized banking system. All right? So let's go here. Here's the last one. It says, with all money being electronic money, one can already predict the questions raised by PR departments of central banks and neatly picked up by the mainstream media. How could one increase the security and safety of this digital money? This is what they want. They want digital money. All right? Everything is transitioning to being digital, as you can see. So it says, what if one loses one's direct debit card? No doubt, some bright Bank of England spark, or else any of the talking heads in the media will then suggest we should adopt the techniques long practiced with our pets, namely of implanting microchips under the skin as our money of the future. Whether this spells progress, readers need to decide for themselves. That's the goal. So when the scriptures say in 2 Corinthians 2:11, you know, at least we be ignorant of Satan's devices. That's his device, his evil schemes, his new world order. How he's going to trap everybody into the system. How he's going to get people to comply and say, yes, I'll get this microchip implant in me so that I can buy and sell and have access to my digital assets. So it says one world cashless currency, which would be what? The central bank digital currency. All right? They don't want no damn stable coin. They don't want people using cash, cryptocurrency, decentralized currencies. It's going to be the central bank digital currency, period. They're going to tie it to a digital wallet, and sooner or later, some type of false flag attack or some type of event going to happen to where they're going to require all people in all countries to get this mark of the beast, or else you're not going to be able to do nothing. You'll be an outcast. It says one world central bank, which I just read you their plan. All right, they want to do away with commercial banks. Commercial banks are the middleman. They want to get rid of the middleman and regain control over society. So it says one world military, the end of national sovereignty, the end of all privately owned property. Yeah, you will own nothing and be happy. That's the 2030 agenda slogan. It says the end of the family unit, which they did that through feminism, the different ways of feminism, the sodomite agenda, really just westernization as a whole. It says depopulation. All right, they got plenty of ways of depopulating the earth through genetically modified foods, you know, the vaccines that people get, you know, the side effects, things that they spray in the air like chemtrails, the pollution in the rivers, the seas, the oceans, all kind of things. Feminism, the sodomite agenda, that's a part of depopulation. All right, stressing people out. It says control, or also they use HARP to cause natural disasters. It says control of population growth and population density. Yeah, Planned Parenthood, birth control, condoms. It says mandatory multiple V's. All right, like you see with the C-19. You know, a lot of these new travel restrictions that they got on people to go to these popular countries, now you gotta have multiple V's just to be in the country. It says universal basic income. See, this is what they want, so that you can trust the government more, so that whatever agendas the government has, you'll comply with it because you're getting free money. All right, even if it involves you getting a microchip in your hand. And when will they implement universal basic income? During Jacob's trouble, which is a global economic collapse and ultimately persecution upon Hebrew Israelites. It says microchip society for purchasing, travel, tracking, and controlling. That's the end game. Implementation of a world social credit system like China has. This is why Klaus Schwab, which he's a secret Rothschild, by the way, if you don't know, all right? This is why he said that China is the blueprint for how he wants the rest of the other countries to be like, because China is under a centralized system. So the goal of the Rothschilds because they operate under different aliases and names, right, to hide their identity. Their goal is to have all countries under the centralized banking system. And if you're not under the centralized banking system, they're going to wage war against you, like they did with Syria, Iran, and Cuba. All right? It says trillions of appliances hooked into 5G monitoring system, the Internet of Things. You know, they tap your cell phone, your smart TV. They can listen to you. They can watch you, right? Spy on you, keep tabs on you. Government-raised children, right? Because why was the school system created in the first place? Why was the Board of Ed created? To prepare you for the workforce, all right? To prepare you to be a slave. It says government-owned and controlled schools, colleges, and universities. And just because you go to a college, school, or university, that doesn't make you smart. Like, oh, my IQ is so high. No, you're just stupid. You accept lies. You don't really know shit. It says the end of private transportation, owning cars. Yeah, they want to do away with gas-powered vehicles, and they want people to have electric cars. Why? Because that's a part of the fourth industrial revolution. That's a part of the New World Order. All right? Why do they want a global cashless digital society? So that it can revolve around the mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip implant. It says all businesses owned by government/corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, they own every damn thing, pretty much. And that goes back to the Rothschilds. It says the restriction of non-essential air travel. Yeah, they're gonna do away with that. We got physical passports, physical identification now, but they wanted to get everybody onto that database. That's why in America, they wanted you to have a real ID so that you can be in that database. So all these people that act like, oh, I'm gonna go off the grid, you wasting your time because you already in the database. You was born in your particular country. They got all your information. So you don't need to walk around being paranoid, all right? You need to walk by faith and not by sight if you're in the truth. It says human beings concentrated into human settlement zones, all right, cities, which will happen during Jacob's trouble. They got FEMA camps. It says the end of irrigation, the end of private farms and grazing livestock, and that's what they're doing. That's why they got companies like Monsanto, to where they could drop a seed onto the land you own, all right? And if they do that, now they could seize your land. It says the end of single-family homes, restricted land use that serves human needs, the ban of natural non-synthetic drugs and neuropathic medicine, which goes back to the Rockefellers, all right? You should watch a documentary on YouTube that shows you how this hospital system, you know, the hospitals, how it's not really designed to kill you. It's just a business. They're the real drug dealers, all right? Everything gotta have side effects. It gotta be scientific. It gotta be FDA approved, you know, but really you should just control your diet and what you put in your body with balance. So that's his agenda. Now, this is gonna happen during what? The hour of temptation, when they make the RFID chip implant mandatory. Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, which refers to the believers of the nation of Israel, which are you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Our seed line makes up the 12 tribes of Israel. Nations are established through the seed of a man. All right, after the flood, there was 18 nations that was established. The seed of the promise, the chosen nation, is the nation of Israel. It says, so this applies to what? The Israelites that's in the truth. It says, kept the word of my patience, because we suffer while we waiting for these prophecies to come to pass. It says, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. All right, let's go into this word, temptation. The Greek word is patasmos, and it says, an experiment, attempt, trial, proven. So this is an experiment by Yahweh, the God of Israel, to weed out the unbelievers, to see who's going to remain faithful unto the end during Jacob's trouble, during the time of great persecution, when you can't buy and sell. Who's going to have faith upon Yahweh? It says, The trial of a man's fidelity, integrity, virtue, constancy, and enticement to sin, temptation, whether arising from the desires or the outward circumstances. What's the outward circumstances? Jacob's trouble, not being able to buy or sell. It says an eternal temptation to sin. It says of the condition of things or a mental state by which we are enticed to sin or to a lapse from the faith of holiness, adversity, affliction, trouble sent by the Most High, serving to test or prove one's character, faith, and holiness. So this is the experiment that the Most High is going to send upon the planet Earth throughout all countries. It ain't just America, it's throughout all countries. But America is the focal point of prophecy. Temptation, i.e. of the Most High by men. Going back to what? The book of Psalms, chapter 17, verses 13 to 14. The Most High uses men in real time, all right, to further these prophecies, to do his predestinated will. It says rebellion against the Most High, by which his power and justice are, as it were, put to the proof and challenged to show themselves. So during this time, it's going to weed out the chosen from the non-chosen, the believers of the nation of Israel, and then the non-believers, the righteous prophets, the false prophets. Everything's going to be exposed during the hour of temptation. Then you're going to know that what? A prophet been among you. It says, which shall come upon the whole world. When you go into this word world in the Greek, it's oikoumene, which says what? The inhabited earth, right? Now, how is it going to come upon the whole world? Because the whole world is under the same centralized banking system. When you look at all countries, everybody buys and sells the same way, using cash. Everybody got bank accounts. They're going to do away with that. Everything is going to become a cashless digital society worldwide. This is their plan that they want by 2030, all right? So that's how it's going to come upon the whole world, through the centralized banking system. It says to try them that dwell upon the earth. So it's an experiment, it's a test. Who gonna pass the test? This is Revelation 13 and 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Yeah, the Edomites, they got power to give life unto the image of the beast from the Most High to fulfill what? End time prophecy. Daniel, the 2nd chapter, 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. All right? Because this is the time of the Gentiles. This is the time where the Edomites are in rulership to fulfill their lot of prophecy, being the last heathen nation to rule before Yahweh establishes the kingdom of heaven. So the image of the beast is referring to what? His system, all right? Westernization, democracy, his religion, his military might, his centralized banking system, right? That's the image of the beast. The image of the beast and the mark of the beast is two separate things. The mark ties you to the system. It says that the image of the beast should both speak, and it's speaking right now. All right, why is everything becoming cashless? How come they're not accepting cash like that? Look at the mindset of people when you pull out big bills, how they hold it up to the sky. It says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So during Jacob's trouble, it's going to be a global economic collapse, but also you're going to have great persecution. Whoever doesn't consent to the New World Order agenda, pursuant to Revelation 24, is going to be beheaded. Some brothers are going to be thrown in concentration camps, all right? So you want to have the mindset that you may have to die for this truth. This is going to be reality. It's going to manifest. It says, and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So the ones that don't worship the image of the beast is going to be killed. This is going to be some of our predestinated futures for the time to come, or Lot, all right? Verse 16, let's turn up Strong's on real quick. Revelation 13:16, it says, and he calls of all. Who is the he that calls of all? What nation is the rulership, first of all? The Edomites, pursuing to what? 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, Daniel the 2nd chapter, a couple verses up, and Revelation the 13th chapter. Who controls the second beast? Who is the second beast? America, all right? The same nation that was ruling over Greece and Rome is ruling over the whole world right now. But the focal point is America. It says, and he calls of all, right? He calls it all, meaning it's going to be made mandatory. Both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. It don't matter what your status is, high, low, in the middle. Everybody's going to be required to consent to this mandatory law of getting this mark of the beast. If you don't do it, you're going to be killed, which is the right thing to do if you're righteous, if you were Israelite in the truth. It says, rich and poor, free and bond to receive. Now, you have particular people that say, oh, the mark of the beast, it's spiritual. No, it's not spiritual. Because when you go into the word receive, in the Greek, the word there is didome. And what does it say? To give. How can I give, like, how can I hand over physically something that's spiritual? That's stupid. They used to have camps, particular false prophet Hebrew Israelite camps outside of GMS. They would say stupid shit like, oh, well, it's Christianity. It's an embargo. That's stupid. How the hell are you going to buy and sell with Christianity? Because verse 17 destroys that statement. It says to give something to someone. So if you give something to someone, you're physically handing something over to somebody, like you're giving them a gift, right? Of one's own accord to give one something to his advantage. What's the advantage? For tracking and controlling, all right? The mark of the beast is physical. It says to receive a mark. When you go into this word mark, we know about heart, the Greek word is karagma, which says what? Stamp and imprinted mark. Something that's imprinted inside of you, it's a subdermal implant. When you take it a step further and you go into the root word for karagma, the word there is karax in the Greek, and it says a pale or a stake or a palisade. Now, you have to think about John the Revelator's vision, because you have to go into the Greek so that you can understand what John is trying to explain according to his own vocabulary, according to the Greek, all right? He's explaining what he saw in a vision. He saw a pale stake or palisade referring to what? The syringe that's used to inject the mark of the beast, the RFID chip implant, also known as the NFC chip implant, inside of somebody's hands, making it what? An imprinted mark, a subdermal implant, an implant that goes underneath the skin or the flesh. Now when you take it a step further, here's the kicker. The root word for karax, the Greek word is grapho, which pretty much means to store information on a particular device, all right, to write with reference to the form of letters. This is why they wanted everybody in a database, all right? You get a real ID, you get a passport, whatever it is, all right? You pay taxes, everybody's in the database. Ain't no such thing as being off the grid. You're in the database so that you can be persecuted, all right? So that's the point. So everything is going to be on this mark of the beast. Everything is going to be revolving around the RFID chip implant, including what? The money. The money is going to be digital, all right? So now let's go back. So it says in their right hand on their foreheads. So this is what John is seeing in his vision. And the forehead is referring to what? What if somebody was a war veteran? What if somebody was an amputee? What if somebody got into a bad car accident and they don't have no hands? How the hell are they going to be tempted? How are they going to fulfill prophecy if they're not a part of the elect? Everybody can't be a part of the elect of the nation of Israel. People got to play that lot of taking the mark of the beast and dying in that lake of fire, which is from the nuclear destruction. So the foreheads is referring to what? The brain chip implants. When you go into this word foreheads, metapon, it says what? The space between the eyes, the forehead. So people would get brain chip implants. You got companies like Neuralink, other particular companies, right? You got Elon Musk at the forefront pushing that. They pretty much pushing transhumanism and a brain chip implant as a miracle, all right? Verse 17, it says that no man might buy or sell. If you're buying and selling, that's physical exchange through a bartering system, right? A barter system. It says, save he that had the mark. So you're not going to be able to buy or sell because the currency itself is going to be tied to the mark of the beast. Whether it's a digital wallet or the digital currency is actually programmed on a particular RFID chip implant, regardless, you're not going to be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. All right? Or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So there you go. Now the people that take the mark of the beast, this is what's going to happen. Revelation 16:2. This is going to be a side effect. It says, and the first went out and poured out his veil, right? Let's go into this word veil, just to see what it means.
Strong's G 5357. Fiale. Fiale.
All right, Piale says a broad, shallow bowl, deep saucer, right? Yep. It says a certainty, affinity, broad, shallow cup. Ain't really saying too much, but it says poured out his veil upon the earth, right? So this is like a form of like judgment too. It says, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore. Now we go into this word sore, right?
Strong's G 1668. Helkas. Helkas.
All right, Helkas. Then it says what? A wound, especially a wound producing a discharged pus, a sore, an ulcer, right? So you notice when you watch videos of people getting the RFID chip implant, how the procedure is done, when they inject the syringe under somebody's skin and inject the RFID chip implant into the left or the right hand or anywhere in the body, what normally happens after that? Blood starts to come out of the skin from the procedure, from the needle that's puncturing the skin, because it's an imprinted mark. So the people, what John saw in his vision was that people had discharged pus. They had a noticeable wound on their hands, proving that they got the RFID chip implant. This is going to be something that's noticeable. You're going to know people that, or you're going to see people that got this chip. They're not going to be able to hide it. All right? So it says, grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image, which is his system. All right? Revelation 19:20. It says, and the beast, now the beast represents NATO and the EU, as you can see up here. That's why I got these bulletins here, right? Going back, Revelation 19:20, it says, and the beast was taken and became a false prophet. The false prophet represents the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church, they have connections to the Rothschilds, because the Rothschilds, they control the Roman Catholic Church that wrought miracles before him. So these Edomites, these central bankers, the Rothschilds on down, Rockefellers on down, right? These powerful Edomite families, they can use any celebrity, entertainer, pope, pastor. They can use anybody to advertise and to promote people to get the mark of the beast. All right? But the false prophet is talking about the Roman Catholic Church that wrought miracles before him, right? Now, what would be the miracles? The miracles would be what? His AI technology and his pseudoscience, right? That's the miracles. Oh, people that get the brain chip implant, you know, now they're not paralyzed no more. Now they could walk around and be normal and feel human again. That's the deception part. It says, with which he deceived them. So the people that get the mark of the beast, they're going to be convinced. They're going to think it's beneficial. They're going to be deceived into taking it, right? It says, deceive them, which could be also a universal basic income. They could deceive people through that, offering benefits. It says, that receive the mark of the beast and them that worship his image. These both, right, the followers that take the mark of the beast, right, and the false prophet, the Roman Catholic Church, right? It says, and them that worship his image, these both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. The lake of fire represents America, which is Babylon the Great, being hit and destroyed by nuclear destruction. Because this is what's going to happen to people if they take the mark of the beast. Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, It says, if any man, this is a worldwide thing, the hour of temptation shall come upon all the world, because all the world is under the same centralized system. If any man, woman, or child worship the beast and his image, right, his system, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the scripture didn't say right hand. It's saying hand. It could be left or right hand. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture, into the cup of his indignation. You're going to get the full extent of Yahweh's wrath if you take this mark of the beast. All right? And that indignation, it means righteous anger. Why is the Most High righteous for destroying people that get this? Because you was warned by the prophets not to do it. And he shall be tormented, meaning destroyed with fire and brimstone, in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, because Babylon the Great is going to be on fire for a particular period of time. All right? And then eventually the land of America, pursuant to Isaiah the 13th chapter and Revelation 18 and 2, is going to turn into a desert once the lake of fire evaporates. All right? The surrounding waters around America, that's going to dry up so that the desert creatures can come over here. It says, yep. And they have no rest day nor night who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Two more, Revelation 20 and 4. It says, and I saw thrones, this is John the Revelator speaking, and I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. Because Yahweh said, whoever overcomes, he's going to make them a pillar, in the kingdom of heaven, meaning to be a part of that main governing body that you read about in Isaiah 9 and 6. That's what we want. We want absolute power and righteousness over the planet Earth through Yahweh and Yahweh, not of ourselves right now. It says, and judgment was given unto them. Why? Because they didn't bow down to the beast. They didn't bow down to the image of the beast. They didn't receive the mark of the beast. They chose death. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh. Remember what Revelation 13 and 15 said. It says that we're going to be persecuted, and the ones that don't worship the image of the beast is going to be killed. So this is how we're going to be killed. We're going to be beheaded. Whether it's by guillotine, however they do it, we're going to be beheaded. That's what John saw. It says, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. See, the scripture ain't just saying right hand. It's saying hands, your left or your right hand. So you want with a third hand, then that hand too. It says, and they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years. I mean, it's going to take 1,000 years for the heathens to build up the kingdom of heaven, to fulfill Revelation 21, that golden city, all the precious gemstones and the gates of the city. It's going to take 1,000 years. That ain't just going to happen overnight. It's going to take 1,000 years. So that's it with that. I'm going to finish it off with this. This is Revelation 15. And I'm starting 2. It says, here's another vision by John the Revelator. It says, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, the earth from aerial view, from a faraway distance, just staring at it, it looks like a sea of glass mingled with fire. What's the fire? The lake of fire. All right, the nuclear destruction that's going to take place, that's going to be the end result of World War III. Also, you're going to have Yahweh come, in which they're going to say, oh, it's an alien invasion, but really it's just a second coming for the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. It says, mingle with fire, and them that had gotten the victory. This is the same people that sat on thrones. This is the elect of the nation of Israel. This is talking about Revelation 7. It says, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, which is 666, which that's the universal barcode, the UPC, right? The universal product code. It says, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of the Most High, right? Because we're going to be in the ships. It says, and they sing the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High, and the song of the Lamb. You gotta believe in the Old and New Testament, man. Can't have the new without the old. You can't have the old without the new. It says, saying, great and marvelous are thy works, Lord Yahweh Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. All right. So that's the point. Even if you gotta die for rejecting the mark of the beast, you're still going to get the victory through Yahweh's blood and sacrifice, because that's Yahweh's predestinated will. So Lord willing, you was edified by the lesson. Shalom.